Okay, so this is video number 2 in the series on red flags of a narcissist. Video number 2 is also red flag number 2, which is rushing intimacy. Narcissists, this is a technique that all manipulative people do. It's seen with narcissists, it's seen with antisocials, it's seen with cults. And it's something that it's part of the love bombing stage. So video number 1 was about love bombing. You know, love bombing is this constant communication and constant compliments. It's communication that's taking, it very quickly goes from, you know, that introduction to spending hours a day talking to a person to spending, you know, anywhere from like 6 to 10 hours a day communicating with this person. It's a form of isolation. And I think most people know, you know, one of the signs of an abusive relationship is that the abuser is isolating the person. It's not just done physically, right? It's not just the abuser moving the person out away from their friends and family or out in the middle of the country. It's also done emotionally and psychologically. Love bombing is one of those ways of isolating somebody. So if I'm trying to love bomb you, right, and we're talking 8 hours a day and I'm telling you everything, I'm telling you how wonderful you are and how appreciated you are and how we have the soulmate connection, you're going to willingly be isolating yourself from other friends and family because you're going to want to spend all your time with me, right? And so victims, this is why when people get caught up with these online scammers and their friends and family are talking to them and they're saying, this isn't real, wake up. They're not going to hear it because this other person's making them just feel so good about themselves. And it's intense. I mean, it's this intoxicating feeling. And they're spending 8 hours a day getting this constant reassurance and all of this attention. You're just getting doused with attention. So the rushing intimacy is kind of this natural progression of the love bombing stage. So the reason they rush into, or some ways that they rush intimacy, narcissists, especially somatic narcissists, like to have sex right away. Sex, for a lot of narcissists, they are incredibly good at it. It's their main weapon. They can be very passionate. You know, if they're mirroring you, which let's see, that's red flag number 5, which we'll get to. It's all kind of done at the same time. Like these first, you know, half a dozen or so flags are all done around the same time. But when they're mirroring you, they're projecting back, they're reflecting back to you everything that you want. And it's the same way when they are with you romantically. So if you had been telling them, oh, you know, my ex-husband never listened to me, or, you know, I'd always, you know, he never did X, Y, and Z in bed, or he never held my hand, they're going to go to great lengths to be exactly everything that you need, which is really hard for victims to get past that, especially after the relationship ends. I think a lot of victims, because that sex and that level of intensity is so, it feels so genuine and it feels so intense, it's hard for any other regular person to compare to that. So a lot of victims, that's probably one of the hardest things they have with getting over a relationship with kind of like a somatic narcissist or a narcissist who's really good in bed is they, all other relations, and I think in general probably, a lot of people, when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, that level of intensity, that level of intimacy, it's so intense, it's just so, you know, it's like a 10 on a 0 to 10 scale, and it's vibrant colors, it's like a drug. And any other relationship after that is sort of, it's just flat, and it's maybe like a 2, and it's kind of a shade of gray. It's not exciting. It's not as, there's not that level of intimacy that there tends to be with the narcissist. Another way that narcissists rush intimacy is they will tell you very personal stories about themselves. I learned this from, somebody else pointed this out to me, and they were so right on. I had never thought of this before, and I'd never read about it until somebody else pointed it out to me. But yes, what they will do is, so you're telling them all of these things, right, through love bombing. They want to know everything about you. You're telling them about your divorce, about your children, about, you know, maybe financial struggles, whatever your hopes and your dreams and your fears are, is what you're telling them. And they're going to counter that back with equally as intense stories. Right? Or they might even take the lead and start off with really intense stories about possibly, you know, their parent. The guy that I had dated I'd gone out with him on a couple times, you know, right away he was telling me about his parents' death. and how he had to go into a psychiatrist for years after that, and it was just this very personal, very intense level type stories right away. And of course, and I think it's just natural. So if somebody comes out of the chute and they're telling you something that's at that level, you're going to kind of want to make them feel more normal. It's a way for us to bond. And so it's a way for human beings to bond. So then I was matching his story and telling him equally personal things about my divorce and kind of about my life, struggles I've had. So but the reality is a lot of times the personal stories that they're telling you, like anything else with the narcissist, there's like a kernel of truth, and then there's a big ball of a lie wrapped around it. So it's hard to, you can't ever separate the two. They're so enmeshed, and it's just so confusing. But watch out for telling any other person that you don't know that well really personal information about yourself, especially with a narcissist. Anything that you say to a narcissist can and will be used against you at some point. I can guarantee it. They will. Another way that they rush intimacy is they're going to want to move in together right away. This happens, again, very frequently. So it's all of these like boundary crossings right away. I'm talking, they're going to tell you that they are in love with you within that first week. They're going to talk about wanting to move in together within the first, 2 weeks to a month. They're going to be talking about getting married. A lot of this wanting to move in together right away. Well, first of all, narcissists don't love. So it's not you. It's not that they don't love you. They just don't love. So them wanting to move in together isn't moving a relationship forward at all. It's moving their con game forward is really what it is. So they might want to move in together because you're a good cover. They might want to move in together because a lot of them live parasitic existences, and that's another red flag I'll get to down the road here. But a lot of them, it's not uncommon for them to not have a job. It's not uncommon for them to quit their job. It's not uncommon for them to maybe have a really great job and then still want you to pay for, to help them out somehow financially, even though you might make 1/10 of what they make. And I'm not talking about helping them out as far as like you being a couple and you helping the household. I'm talking like you helping them out. A situation I heard, this woman, I won't say who it is, but she had married this narcissist. He was a multimillionaire. Well, he also owed his ex-wife, I think he was paying her alimony. And he had asked this woman and she was making, again, probably like about 1/10 of what he was making, if she could help him out and help him pay off these these payments. Well, obviously that alimony has nothing to do with her. It's not household expenses. And so she shoveled, close to $25,000 at helping pay off his ex-wife. So that's an example of a narcissist that actually does have money, but who doesn't want to spend it. He wants to spend your money. And that's what a lot of them do. So moving in together too, it's a great way. It's another form of kind of power and control and isolation. If you're living in the same house, they know where you are. They know what you're doing. It's much easier to manipulate a person when you have total 24/7 access to them. Also, they know that if they can move in with you, they're going to really enmesh their life with yours, right? You're going to probably join bank accounts. You're going to put them on credit cards. Your kids are going to get to know them. These kinds of things. The more tangled up you get with them, the harder it is to separate from them, and they know that. And that's why victims tend to keep going round and round with narcissists, is their lives are so enmeshed with them, especially narcissists that tend to be very abusive, very controlling. I've seen it time and time again where a narcissist will have all of the accounts. He'll drain the accounts. He'll, cut off utilities. He will insist that they move somewhere far away from people where the victim knows. So the victim financially, she or he can't leave. They're dependent on this abusive person for their daily, food, clothing, shelter. And that's a really scary and vulnerable place for a person to be. So be very careful when you're talking about moving in with somebody. Do not do it seriously for like the first 6 months. You really don't know a person well enough. I've made that mistake. It's never worked out. I don't think it ever really works out. Just go slow. They're going to also, within the first few weeks of knowing you, talk about getting married, buying a house, having children. This is all called future faking. Future faking is basically where somebody fakes wanting a future with you. And not only that, but they fake wanting the same future that you want. So if you want to, go raise alpacas somewhere in the hills of Peru, well, guess what? They want to do that too. How strange. And they're just totally open to having whatever kind of future you want to have. They want to have that too. Another way that they rush intimacy is, again, combining finances, combining credit, putting you on their phone plan, other forms of just combining anything money-wise. Again, this is because you're going to start paying for the vast majority of things. They might pay for things, but again, you might find that you're starting to pay for a lot more of it. The first covert narcissist I dated, his name was Jack. We were going to move in together. I think it was like 2 or 3 days before we were going to move in together. We had already signed a lease. He supposedly got fired from his job. I had never questioned it. I didn't even question it until like years after that relationship ended, and then a light bulb went on. I'm like, oh my God, that probably didn't happen. He probably quit. But, he thought I had a lot of money. I didn't. And he was just going to sponge off of me. So I was supportive of him trying to find another job for, a little while, a few months. And then finally I was like, this is not working. Like, you need to hold your own. And then he reluctantly got a job. And long story short, I ended up talking to his ex-wife after that whole relationship went south. And I found out the truth, that he had this whole double life, and that he, was a narcissist and everything that was going on. I spoke to her, and she had said the exact same thing. She'd said when they had gotten married, that within a few days of them getting married, he upped and came home, said that he had lost his job due to some sort of nonsense story. His story was that they were accusing him of using too much coffee creamer. I'm not even kidding. Like, that's crazy, right? And that they had fired him over that. And so he was content to just sponge off of her. And, she found out that during the day he was online, all these different dating sites, and he was, she wasn't sure that he'd ever cheated on her, but I'm sure that he was, because he was cheating on me like nonstop. But it's just that level of that parasitic existence. Even though they're able to support themselves, they just kind of figure out like, well, why should I have to? So it's not uncommon for them to sponge off of you, off of their children, off of their parents. Again, this guy Jack, the covert narcissist, he had no problem calling his elderly parents and asking them for money. And that should have been more of a red flag than it was at the time. Because at the time, he was probably 43 and capable of working. So why are you sponging off of your parents who, I think they were in their late 70s, early 80s. Just not cool. So watch out for those ways that they will rush intimacy. Again, it's not flattering. Anybody, normal, healthy people do not move at this pace. I know that we all, especially women, we're all raised with all these Disney fairy tales, and that things go so fast, and that we're all waiting for Prince Charming, and Prince Charming's just going to swoop in, and, he's just going to kiss you under the moonlight, and you're just going to know, and he's just going to know. And then within, 4 days, it's this whirlwind, and then you're getting married. I will tell you that's not how reality works. And I will tell you that time and time and time again, I have seen this blow up. I don't think I've ever seen it work out. And the times that I think I have seen it work out, which are very, I guess, I have seen a couple people where it's worked out. I would say their relationship is very unhealthy. It's very codependent, and it's just its own level of toxic. So have your own identity, go slow, move at the pace that you want to move at. You are in control. You're an adult. If somebody else is rushing the relationship along, you have the right to say, hey, you know what? We need to slow down. So that's what you need to do. Okay, so stay tuned for the next video, which is cha-cha-cha. I think it's going to be a good listener is the next red flag. So stay tuned, okay?